Hey everyone, my name is Paul Ken and welcome to the Man on Purpose Summit, where our goal is to empower men to reignite their fire, break through their fears, and awaken the leader within. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'm so excited to have you. Now, I am very pumped for our expert today. Today we have Dr. Ray Doctor, who for the past 23 years has worked as a transformational life coach. He's been a workshop facilitator, author, and is a very accomplished speaker teaching self-mastery. And he has gone through many different types of clinical trainings, including hypnotherapy, NLP, Qigong, meditation, sound healing, just to name a few. Now, the most fascinating part about him and what he does is that it didn't begin that way. Growing up, he was bullied and he was made fun of a lot of the time in his childhood because he had leg braces and he had severe allergies and asthma, which caused him to dip into depression and really question his own self-worth as well as he was down on that journey. And, throughout that, in his early years, he had a unhealthy relationship with money, with women, and he really found himself leading a life in the fast lane in the wrong direction that led to DUIs and living a life as a stripper and a hustler until one point his life completely turned around when he met a woman that brought him a book, That You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, and it completely opened his mind and heart and transformed him. So today, he has a doctorate degree in clinical psychology and has also a master's degree in counseling psychology. And he has conducted workshops all around the world, from the US, the Netherlands, to Brazil and England, and has shared the stage with some of the most famous people in this realm, from John Gray to Eckhart Tolle to Bruce Lipton, and he's been featured on E! Channel, HBO, Bravo, Men's Health, LA Times, as if that wasn't impressive enough. And he is now the man who is showing us that change is possible. So please help me in welcoming the man who has helped over 6,000 people live an authentic, passionate, and happy life now, Dr. Ray Doctor. Thank you so much, Dr. A, for being with us today. I'm so excited to have you on the summit.
Thank you. It's interesting to have you hear you read that, because at this very moment, my new website was launched. And so a lot of what you were sharing was verbiage from years ago. And the reason why I'm bringing this up also is because regardless of that, we're always are reinventing ourselves. So even when we think we've reached some plateau or this is it, it's always about going back in and then coming back out again, integrated and hopefully expanding to do more. So most people get kind of caught up with the negativity or victimization of their past, not realizing that most people by default, they're moving forward. Yet by how they continue to look at themselves in survival mode and their challenges, whatever else, they're not aware that they're actually moving ahead. So it's interesting to kind of just in the beginning of this, hear what you're sharing. It kind of makes me laugh. I'm like, yeah, I remember I'm not even connected to that reality anymore, but it's like, I might have some story to share 25 years from now based where I'm at right now. And I think this was difficult or something, you know what I mean?
And I think, the amazing thing though, is that you're the image of what's possible. That transformation is possible. And like you said, that we're ever evolving. There's never one part of us that's good or bad. It's all part of a journey of where we're going. And it's powerful to see that, especially for a lot of the men that we are talking to on the summit, that, when you hit a wall or you feel like this is just how things are, that, that is just a portion of the reality of what's actually out there and what we can actually create in our lives, which really brings us to, the ultimate topic that we're talking about. I'm really excited to dive into, which is about how or why the ultimate happy life is only through purpose. So I'm really curious around, tell us a little bit more around your journey of how you discovered that purpose was, really the core of what would lead to a happy life, and, what difference that has made in your life now that that is, kind of the core of how you move and create in your life.
So first I'm going to talk about what purpose means to me. And this topic, it kind of has different little tenets in it, meaning that it deals with how money will never satisfy you, to no relationship truly outside yourself will make you happy. You'll always be in survival mode and seeking. If you're not connected to your spiritual self, then you're kind of in a third dimensional story of just accumulation, to when you don't feel fulfilled, there's always this existential loneliness, even if the woman, say, is next to you. And you probably will have death anxiety. And I'll go through these, with these slower. But because you kind of have this urgency, I haven't finished what I'm supposed to do. And also, you'll just have a lack of motivation if it's not being done in spirit, because in spirit, you're aligned with who you really are. And so all of those, we could break those down shortly, kind of aligned with purpose. And purpose for me is you. Most men, especially if they like to listen to, say, David Deda's work or these other kind of men type of groups or support, there's this idea that I'm going to meditate and I'm going to find my purpose. I'm going to do this one action, it'll show up. So there's this idea it's outside themselves, or it's going to be an action. Like they're during the holidays, Thanksgiving, we're going to feed those who are homeless, when that's not necessarily your purpose. That's not purpose. If that is your highest joy and it's not outcome driven, meaning that your way of being is showing up to offer a gift, then you're aligned with yourself. And the purpose is just an extension. The action is just an extension of that. What I mean by that is no matter what you're doing, you will hit some walls or some contrast, meaning that there's always kind of a little bit of a bumpy road. So when you do that, what do? You are reflecting back to yourself. You recalibrate yourself, hopefully grow and expand. Then once again, you go back out and do it again. So the purpose is never really outside of yourself. It's kind of more aligned with who you are. If anything, it's just having the right trajectory and path and the framework of, say, life philosophy. So when you are approaching life to create something, that you're able to remember your why. You're able to connect to the experience of your passion, excitement, because what use are you, especially if, say, you're trying to hold a space for men, and at the end of the sun, say, you're angry. God damn, it was so much work. Like, that doesn't make sense. There's a misalignment. What were you doing it for? To, you make the money and like you're exhausted, your health has gone to shit, or you get the girl and then you can't be vulnerable because you're so wound up with so much doing, you don't go in, you sabotage that relationship. So you are your purpose. You can't ever get off of your purpose. It's just how are you nourishing your purpose? How are you nourishing your path? When you go forward, why are you doing it? Is it because you just don't want any more of the bullshit anymore in your life? Is it because you want to get ahead of the person over there, therefore you're more in a competitive mode? Or is it what you've been taught, brainwashed by your culture? You want to make sure when you're walking forward, you're consciously choosing. And that's kind of my philosophy. It's that I want to consciously choose my woman, my work, my hours, how I communicate with my son, how I make my money, and how I live through my heart.
I love how you brought up choice there, because when we're really able to start creating that life that we've always wanted, it starts from us coming from a place where we're 100% responsible 100% of the time for what we create and what we choose. And I'm curious around, you talked a lot about, often men go outside of themselves to look for purpose, to look for, what is this thing that I'm supposed to be doing and why. But the truth of it is that it's really within. And I think if anything, that makes it more scary, because there isn't an exact, kind of roadmap or, like what is the ABC that I need to take that is exactly going to lead me to this. It's really an exploration because it looks different for everybody. How do you start looking for that purpose on the inside? Where do you start looking when you spent your whole life looking on the outside?
Well, it's very easy. I call it like looking at your relationship blueprint. And that is, you have a relationship blueprint to all things in your life, such as your relationship to intimate partners, to career, to spirituality, to your health. Depending on your association to that, to what you've been taught, what you saw, what culture, and that alignment to that might be more because it's all you know. And so no matter if what you do, even if you say win in a point system, you have the money, you get the trophies and whatever else, you'll feel a disconnect. So it would be first looking at the most important areas in your life, such as, maybe relationships or money. And it's about first breaking down, why am I doing this? Being able to kind of be able to answer that because I want to, I'm choosing this. If not, there's some block, or if you don't get that, there's a good chance why you feel anxiety or it feels like work. And that would be a good place to start. And that means that it's kind of first, in a way, kind of going to where you are just living life and you might have blinders on. It might be living life to where you don't really know why. Like, for example, I work with couples all the time and I'll ask them, why do you want to be together? Because we love each other. I said, well, a lot of people get divorced all the time who still love each other. Why do you want to get married? Well, and rarely will they say it's a commitment to growth and expansion. I want a partnership. I want to grow. Typically, they can't go there. And therefore, it's aligned with things that they've been taught or what they've come to know. And so people try to keep up this continuity illusion of like why it should work out, why is most people are miserable and things are not working out, because you've been kind of given this idea of like how it should be. Like, I'll give you an example. There's this idea that millennials or younger people are not getting married because of, like, say they can't afford it, to whatever else. Well, they have more options. I think they're more awake. They're seeing, wait a minute, the people before us really fucked up and they don't look really happy. Why would I do that? That's how I see it more than anything else, because I work with a lot of them. So it's more like, it's not like it's culturally accepted or that I'm going to be ostracized if I don't have a woman I bring to the party. It's not like if I leave my man, people can go, look at the slut. Like we don't have that cultural conditioning of like, you got to stay in something. Right now we have more options, more resources. So it's also more like, oh my God, I have to make choices for myself, which what you said, like more responsibility of making choices. So in that, it's like looking at the buffet of life and going, I can choose this and it might suck, or I might put it in my mouth, it's sour, but wouldn't you rather know what you like or not like by your own choosing, by your own experience? And so it's about really taking responsibility and making those exact decisions. But also remember this, no matter what, every person on this planet, when you make a decision, you're going to evolve anyway to something else. So you might also make a choice anyway. You're never going to land on something and it's forever, it's permanent. We're forever unfolding consciousness.
I think you brought up a great point around how the landscape of, just what the world has looked like now in terms of the different pieces of it. Like, for example, there's a lot more information out there. There's a lot more choice. It's a lot more accessible. And if anything, I think there's also another problem that ends up being created, which is that there's so many choices that we end up being an analysis paralysis and we don't know what choice to make, or we don't know what we like. And that's often experienced now, especially like the whole world of dating has really changed. It's a lot of online, it's a lot of through apps, which has completely changed the landscape of what that looks like. And there is now this question, like you said, of a lack of commitment and not knowing if something is, well, if this is not so great, maybe there's something out there. How do you, now that there is this like opposite issue or this opposite, kind of situation that has arisen from that, what are your thoughts around finding happiness in a world where there is so many choices, so many options for what happiness can really look like?
So first off, most people think happiness is something outside themselves. And when most people experience happiness, it might be it's a response to something that happened. And I'll give you an example. So for me, if I want a new car, the amount of joy that I had for that would be much different than a person who doesn't have a car. You understand? Like it just, or if I were to win a car, I would have more joy by giving it to someone who doesn't have a car because of my circumstances. Okay. And so everyone has a different experience of like whether their joy comes from offering, being acts of service, or to receiving, I guess, doing something where they're creative and so forth. Anything that we do where our heart is into it, typically we're going to maybe forget to eat because we're just doing it because we love to. We're in conversations where it's supposed to be an hour lunch meeting, but ends up being 3 hours because we are being inspired by the conversations. So it could be weird working for some company that doesn't pay really well, but because how people are just jacked up on the product and they support it, that there's this connection to that. This should have been what people should have connected to thousands and thousands of years ago. I mean, because you have mostly unhappy employees. you have mostly unhappy people doing things to pay the bills. And there's this idea that they would have never been able to, say, pay the bills if they would have done that job. But if we would have been able to connect our hearts, everybody on this planet has some talent or gift or whatever that's unique that they enjoy. I'll give you an example. I'm a full-time father, and I primarily take care of my son by myself. And even though I'm a good parent in many ways, my son's amazing, I still am very much like a hunter. I'm very much in my masculine. I don't like to sit down and push cars. And he talks a lot, and that chattering does get to me. I'm still like a typical dude in that sense. But I've seen women and men, but I've seen mostly women, so unbelievably more patient than men. And so much their whole life is about kids. Those should be in a tribe as far as supporting a lot of children. I know women who look at what I do, and men also, and they're like, oh my God, that seems like a lot of work. I'm like, no, I love it. I love working. I love getting a shovel and getting into the dirt. I love talking about building funnels and branding. You know what I mean? And they're like, that's so everybody has things that we like. And so it starts with that. So we said, what do we do by all these choices? Well, it's almost like walking an aisle of this where there's all these different cereals. And it might be trying a few out first, but it might be where you have to start trusting what your heart is pulling you to, what it feels like, looking at the symbols in your life, because the heart has way more information than the brain does. The heart has, in fact, like 40,000 cells that work independently from the brain, which are called neurosensorites. And basically that even when they say do these heart transplants in people, that they have memory transference happen where that person who passed away, like say if they like fried foods, or even they're very specific about a gender or sexuality, it shows up in the memory of the person who just got the heart. There's definitely a little brain in the heart, and it harmonizes with the head, literally. And the brain has the heart has a stronger, much higher frequency. Our hearts are first before the brain is developed, literally. And when we're developing, it is letting our heart lead us. It connects to synchronicities that bring those things like the law of attraction, meeting the right people, being in that flow, being in our peak state. We have to trust this more than this. And that's really how it's done. So someone's saying to you, you'll like this. This is something you should do, and you're scratching your head because you're not saying this is a strong yes. It's probably not aligned with you. And that is why that you're trying to effort yourself into it. You're trying to tell yourself that you should like this or whatever else. And as we mentioned, times have changed. And so a lot of people now they don't feel the excitement to say, do this, Paul. Like they're like trying to figure out, why do I want to work? Like some people might look at the younger generation, go, you just don't work hard like us. You're lazy. No, it's like, I can't work out of fear. You don't have those cognitive constraints to go, oh, I should do this because if I don't work, a woman won't be with me. No, you have more options. Our roles are very clear and cut in the 50s. And even though, most people were denying their passions and what they're feeling in their bodies, because the culture kind of normalized it, people stayed in that. Now it's like, that didn't work for you. That isn't like, I'm not going to work. It doesn't make sense to me. People are more and more realizing that there's got to be more to this.
And I think to your point, like you said, it's in terms of like us shifting, what our purpose has been compared to where it was, like 50 or to 100 years ago. A big part of that is in terms of the role of men as well, because a lot of times in the past, like the previous generations, the purpose of a man was really to provide. So that's where we found our purpose is to wake up, is to provide for the family. But now, I mean, there's statistics, right, that are showing about 41%, actually at Google right now, 41% of the leadership is women. And they are the ones that actually are the main breadwinners in the household. And so as there's this shift now in society of women also, providing or maybe even being the main provider of the household, there is this space where men are like, well, I'm used to my purpose being this. Now I don't really know what it is now that my role has completely changed. And I'm curious around in that space, and especially in the space of men right now, as I think there's a lot of people that are men that are really lost in terms of wondering what their purpose is now.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So I have many thoughts on that. So one would be
Mm,
this: is that uh, I recognize I'm not sure what happened with the particular type of parenting style, but you heard about men and women being entitled, or that they were maybe coddled or whatever. I
mm,
think to some degree that the way like my generation of type of parenting was like kind of harsh and whatever, we moved to the extreme where that I notice it still in the playground now. I have a son where I notice that parents don't want their kids to stay in those emotions, to move through it. And so that's one way to look at this also. If you don't learn how to process your own stuff, when things happen, you're going to lose your shit when you go through a breakup, or when you're trying to make a decision. Like what I'm saying is that we become adults who are pretty good at emotional resilience by being able to have a parent say no and us cry in our rooms,
mm,
and to come out and go and to connect to why it is that maybe they're not letting us stay up late, to having that conversation. But we need to be able to experience that. That's one thing to look at. Number two, you shared it already, is that there used to be cultural demands and expectations.
mm,
Now that that's not there, remember, a lot of men just did it, even though they said that that was their purpose. It was more that they fell into it. How many pissed off, angry men do you see, like in the 1950s, the movies of like just, "Arr!" They don't seem
mm,
happy.
mm,
They seem broken down. So imagine if it takes time for us to evolve, to expand, literally consciously. Every man, like I'll just example, really simple one, and I'll bring it back to this is the whole Me Too movement. In Disneyland, I was there. I was there this summer, and they removed the Pirates of Caribbean, where she was supposed to be a prostitute. They call her a wrench. They're selling this woman. It's gone because of the whole Me Too movement. There's this in that same ride. There's this pirate that used to be chasing this woman. It's not there anymore. Now
mm,
that just didn't happen overnight, but it's happened very quickly. It happened within the last 2 years.
mm,
But most people are going to go like, that's just a norm 5, 10 years from now. But 5, 10 years is still kind of long time. Now imagine men where they thought they were, say, the breadwinners, and they're kind of maybe programmed to do this. That level of consciousness is moving out of that, and they're kind of saying, now that I don't have the tracks for me already, now that it's not demanded, and there's not this exercise of men becoming more. You're right, on the physical trail, men are maybe thinking, what do we do? How can we show up as men? You know, what can we offer? What can we provide? Because you was done for us. And so with that being said, still, it's what I shared about 10, 15 minutes ago. It's moving into your heart and being able to kind of go, what fulfills me the most? And I'm sure some men can say gaming. And the thing is that I, some men, like, they don't care about anything else, and all they want to do is just make it about themselves. I'm sure they're going to get enough feedback in life by women and other people that that's not working.
mm,
And so, in other words, I'm not telling anybody that that's wrong or it's bad. It's just this, is that in life, if because you're a social creature, if you're, in addition to say gaming or doing things, that's smoking a lot of weed, whatever, you're checking out. I know this. You're part of the collective consciousness. You see other men with women. You see other people who are kind of doing things to make other people feel good. You're part of the society. So you're being reminded every day, no matter what, even if you say this is something that you enjoy, by how you probably still can grow. You're still going to somewhat unconsciously compare yourself. Like, there's got to be more than just this. It's
mm,
not going to be enough. So even though a person who says, I don't give a fuck, I'm going to do my own thing, actually gives a fuck. They'll feel that there's some low level of suffering. Even the smoking of the pot, take the weed away and be in that. It's like, oh shit, I don't know who I am without weed. I'm socially inept or whatever. So even the worst case scenario, when someone's checking out and not doing anything, that suffering could become leverage to this move into action, something better. And whatever that is your purpose. And when I say better, it's being not smoking pot for 3 days maybe, and that's it for that moment. But that might be where you go, I feel better and I wrote a song, or I feel better and had a better conversation with my dad. You
Mm.
know, your process and your purpose doesn't have to be this big grand thing. It could be just baby steps from feeling sorry for yourself, or taking baby steps from feeling like you can't do something, to just even get through this summit and hear his conversations. Oh, I can redefine myself. I can create something that's different than my father. How exciting. And his father.
Mm.
This is, you don't, just don't look at how your parents did it. It's how you want to do it.
Mm.
And
What's
hope it's coming from your heart.
Yeah, and what are men actually hiding behind when they say, "Yeah, I just want to," and I actually had a conversation like this with someone, and they were saying, "Yeah, like if I didn't have to work in my life, I would love to just sit and game. I'd be happy with just sitting and gaming and just not having to work and just doing whatever I want, or maybe I'd read, maybe I'd exercise a little bit, but I mostly game and I'd be very happy." What are they actually hiding behind that they're not facing right now, that is disguised by this, I'm good with this mediocrity?
So here's the thing again with that, is that I don't know a lot of women who'd be attracted to a man like that. So life is going to slap him in the face anyway. And two, because everything that we do has a shelf life, that somehow there's going to be some contrast presented, and you're going to either stay stuck or go into depression, or you're going to have to step it up. So
Mm,
even with gaming, that there's different levels that you can get better and whatever, and maybe this can excite you. But the position being on a chair or a couch or being focused on this thing at some point is going to basically start to burn you out, even if you are professional at it. It's where there's so much more to life because you're part of the collective consciousness. You're going to be out and about going to stores, and you're going to see men and women with their child playing. You're going to be like feeling like I might be missing out on something. You're going to be around other people who seem more lit up because they go outside and go surf and are connected to nature, and you're going to be thinking maybe that could be more fun.
mm,
So a person from that perspective, that I would just be happy with this, they can't really honestly say that, because from that present now state of like maybe not liking their job and that this looks like a better alternative, they can say that. But just imagine they have the money and they don't have to work. You have no idea how many miserable trust fund men I've met.
mm,
Big time. Men who've had it, like, say, easy financially,
mm,
suffering shows up. That's all
mm,
I have to say. That. It's like there's this, they're lost, they don't know what to do. And it
mm.
shows up. And the thing is that even if their bills are paid and like they can continue to live this way, girlfriends, friends, life is bumping up against them and say, you know what? You're kind of living like a loser, you know?
Mm. What's the conversation that is not being had right now about men and finding their purpose?
Um, can you share your perspective on a little bit so I can piggyback off of you?
Yeah, I think, when it comes to, men sometimes, like in the conversation with, just speaking with about men here, a lot of times, there's often this conversation of, I need to find my purpose. I need to find my purpose. And, that's what I'm chasing towards. But often, um, there is, we end up looking, like you said, a lot of times at the wrong places for purpose, or we have this misconception about what purpose is supposed to bring into our lives. Like we think that, oh, if I find the thing, that should solve all my issues, even though I feel like purpose is kind of it can be a compass, but I don't think it is necessarily, the ultimate solution to life, or that, ultimate holy grail that I think it's going to bring. So I'm curious about what your thoughts are, because you have a lot of conversations around, people finding their purpose, men finding their purpose. What is the conversation that is not being had, or maybe some of the misconceptions that are had about what purpose really holds, and what it really means with, what purpose is in your life and what it's going to do for you?
Okay, so I'm going to answer this question in a
Mm,
much deeper way,
mm,
which is kind of what I always do. So this very now moment, there are men watching me. There's some men who like me. There's some men who think I'm an asshole. There's some men think I'm confident. Some men think I'm cocky. The list goes on.
mm,
But remember, I'm sharing words, your filters and how I say it, to my tone, to how I would look, to your impressions of a man my age, however old you think I am, whatever, is going through filters. You tell yourself a story both consciously and unconsciously, where it creates emotional response. In that emotional response, you now maybe have a creative perception. This guy is this way. So imagine right now, 100 people watching this, men, and every man has a different opinion about me. And in that, it's very easy to say, then who am I? What am I really offering? And what is reality? Well, they all are reality, given like that person's perspective about me. Okay. I think we're clear about that. So
mhm,
third dimensional reality is like you can see the side view of me. And so I'm talking to somebody, he's in front of me and he can call me an asshole, or he could be friendly, or he could want to offer me help. But because I've been ripped off before, I feel him like he wants something from me, yet he's just standing there. And there's another person who he's just actually giving free flowers to, that takes it and receives it with love. Okay.
mm,
So I'm sharing this, very, very important reason. So my perceptions to everything in life is self-talk. Everything that I experience, my action, there's going to be a moment where I have self-talk. And if that self-talk is not nourishing or happy or expansive, I'm not growing, I'm going to be depressed. It's never going to be enough, and whatever else.
mm,
Ultimately, spiritually, your purpose is to know yourself, to remember yourself, to love yourself, to expand and to expand your consciousness. So even if, say, you're gaming and like you're checked out and just playing, and maybe you're miserable, and maybe to other people it looks like you're just wasting your life. In that moment, you're gaming. The moment you realize I am gaming, now you're watching yourself. Why am I doing this? Am I finding joy in this or not? Or I don't really want to go out because I have social anxiety. This relationship of talking to yourself is the purpose also, to grow and expand. It is not the vehicle, the gaming, the job, the girl. No matter what, you're going to have self-talk. And either that self-talk is going to expand you, you're going to be open and grow and feel better, or the self-talk is going to be negative. Anything in your life that is negative and stagnant, it is that you're not expanding. There's ways that you can experience it in a way that where you can grow and look at it. Like example, just imagine I have a girl break up with me. The first experience is just I feel rejected. How could she do that? Things are going really well for 3 months, and then some guy, talks to me, and he just, he says, why do they call it dating? How long you with her? 3 months. And she did this and that. And he says, what's interesting is that weren't you just getting to know each other and you found out in 3 months? And I'm thinking, oh, you're right. And when he said that, I'm talking to myself. He can say something. I can say you're full of shit,
mm,
but I'm going back to self-talk. And so my mind shifts about that. I start feeling good. I'm like, oh, the universe was abundant by letting me know this sooner than later. And everything in your life, you hope that you become like a ninja where you could be present to the changes and flows with your children, with your job, where no matter what you're doing, your self-talk feels as loving as possible most of the time. Your self-talk is saying you're learning and growing. Your self-talk is saying that this wasn't a waste of time, but that how you became from that experience is what it was all about. When you're aligned with that, there's nothing that you could do that would totally fuck up your life or make you feel like you're so out of alignment or with purpose, because your purpose really is you. It
mm,
really is you. So these people who don't know what the purpose is, what you're really saying is this: I was taught by being a zombie and programmed like my dad with purpose, and that doesn't work for me. So I'm still trying to find it. To um, there's not a path for me, and I really don't see myself working really hard right now. I have this uncertainty. Your purpose right now is to be able to relax into the uncertainty, because you're going to be uncertain for the rest of your life anyway. It's
Mhm.
more, can I have what's my relationship to trust? I have to trust that there's some things I like, I don't like. Oh, I just need to put this into action. Trust that if I don't like it, I can step back, recalibrate, and go back again. It's just kind of getting back in it and being in the flow. And so your purpose is always about self-reflection,
Mhm.
self-reflection. And the more you're in self-reflection and growing, whatever the vehicle is of how you make your money or whatever it is, it's going to be the most exciting journey.
Mm. That is powerful. That is very, very powerful, especially around that's the ultimate thing, I think, when it comes down to looking for your purpose. And I love that you said it's ever changing, it's constant self-reflecting, it's ever evolving. And that's the beauty of it, is that, like you mentioned from the very beginning, which really ties in nicely, is that it is ever evolving. This whole process of who you are, where you're becoming, your purpose is ever shifting. So you don't have to feel like it's a destination. If anything, it is a journey, and the destination is never a thing. It's like you're constantly moving towards it. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for really bringing that, the incredible insights, Dr. Ray, that you really brought to us. And for our audience that really want to learn more about what you are up to, more about your work, where can they find you?
My website is RayDoktor. Again, Ray Doctor. It's spelled with a K. It's my real last name, RayDoktor.com. And there's a lot of videos. There's a lot of free information there. I just had my new website launched, so much more to come. And I have an amazing book there, or I can share about that also.
Hmm.
There's a book called Happiness Decoded, and it's not your typical fluffy law of attraction or think positively. It's actually what I just shared here about breaking down your relationship blueprint to particular things of how you look at things. In that, you first break it down. There's different steps. You first break it down to like, oh, that's not me, to what would be my future template? How would that look? The book literally aligns you to what we might call purpose, which happiness is an extension when you're aligned with this comfortable, compassionate relationship with yourself, knowing that you're not going to know all things and yet trust in everything. And
Mm.
so when you're in that, you just kind of go for it. It's like when I do these talks, when I do webinars, when I do workshops, I will have notes, but man, when spirit moves through me and I'm in that flow, I
Mm.
don't care about my conversions. I don't care about anything else but the flow. And people say, you said this thing. I said, I did. I'll hear a recording, and I'm like, wow, that was really cool. But that's because I'm aligned with myself. It's just not me going to my head, mind, and what I know in history. I'm tapped into like the motherboard of source energy to where it moves through me. Like in this call, you can hear I talk really quickly.
Mm.
I'm not thinking of anything. I am in my purpose. And my purpose this very now moment is to be with you, to be in this moment.
Mm.
And if there were something I wish I would have said differently, it wouldn't be about fixing what I should have said differently. It'd be looking at, why did I just judge myself? How exciting. So it's not like I police my thoughts all the time. It's that I have a very comfortable, loving relationship with myself by breaking all this stuff down and redefining who I am. And it's in the book, Happiness Decoded, to align you to that.
Mm, that's amazing. And as well, for our audience, Dr. Ray has been generous enough to also provide our audience with a free gift as well. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about what that's all about?
That was it.
That was it. Okay, perfect.
That
Even
was.
better. So he just gave you the lowdown of what it's going to be like. So even better. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's funny. So that was it. Yeah,
Okay.
that was it. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, hey, once again, thank you so much, Dr. A, for just amazing, like the download that we got from you. We can clearly see that, the work that you do is so powerful, and especially for all of our audience out there, definitely check out his book, check out what he's up to. He really is up to some amazing things with really helping men and women really unlock their authentic and their passionate and their happy life. So thank you so much for being on the
Thank
summit
you.
with us.
Thank you. It was fun.
So for our audience out there, thank you so much for being with us today again on the summit. And until next time, keep living life on purpose. We'll see you next time.